Hey, brother, Bob Gerace here with another episode of the Have It All Marriage for the Have It All podcast, where your marriage has a 100% chance of success if you do it God's way. And that's what we talk about, is how do you get out of God's way and do it God's way at the same time. And so today's episode, we're going to talk about how the 5 love languages and other traditional marriage advice, counseling, and therapy is more likely to do harm in your marriage than good. And a lot of people can't wrap their heads around this, but let me break it down for you. So an interesting thing started to happen to me as I began coaching men in saving their marriages. And what that was is the men would come back to me and they would say, Bob, a big problem in my marriage is that my wife does not want to have sex at all. She has no drive, she has no libido, she has no energy, she has no motive, and she has no enthusiasm. She's just not into it. And she tells me that you know what, she has no need, she has no desire, she doesn't even think about it, it never even occurs to her, doing it is a chore, and so it's just not something that she wants to do. And then, sadly, when those women who were already in the process of starting some kind of an emotional affair, when the man began to work with me, and maybe 2 or 3 days after he begins working with me, all of a sudden it surfaces that she's had some kind of affair, and it's not even maybe an emotional affair, it's actually a physical affair. Now the question becomes, and I spent a lot of time thinking about this, why is it that he had no idea that she was having this affair, and then 2 or 3 days after he starts working with me, she feels comfortable and safe to be able to tell him that she's having an affair? And this actually ties into the next thing that's coming, where she often admits that inside of this affair, which became physical, like she had desire, she had motive, she had enthusiasm. Her body did have physical needs and she wanted to get them filled. She wanted to scratch those itches. Man, in plain words, she was horny, man. And so the guy is like, well, why couldn't you be like that with me? And why were you telling me for years or decades that you had no interest and no desire? And then all of a sudden, now you want to do it. And a lot of these guys, they make the mistake of asking her for all the details. And it turns out if she's being honest with him, that a lot of the things that he wanted her to do for and with him, that she had told him were gross and disgusting and humiliating, and she had no interest or desire to do them, that she actually did it with this guy. And she might even tell him that she enjoyed that. And so this question really becomes, like, what is going on inside the mind of the woman? And I'm going to tell you what is going on inside of the woman is that if you're in a place where your wife does not want to do anything with you, it's with you are the key words. It's not that she doesn't want to do anything. She wants to do almost everything, brother. It just depends on who you are. And so this actually translates. And I'm always telling guys that how they treat her outside the bedroom translates into how she's going to treat you inside the bedroom. But we can reverse engineer this and we can translate it. And what we can say is the fact that she wanted to do this stuff, she just didn't want to do it with you. And so when we talk about things like the 5 love languages, and we talk about things like helping her around the house, when we talk about things like trying to be more present, when we talk about things like trying to be a nicer guy and to let more stuff slide, to try to be less controlling, to try to be less dominating, to try to be less of what she doesn't want and more of what she does want, why does that stuff always blow up in your face when you try to do it? And I'm going to tell you, man, and I hope that your brain is exploding with an epiphany, because what it means is she wants somebody to rub her feet. She just doesn't want you to rub her feet. She wants somebody to give her acts of service, if that's her love language. She just doesn't want you to give her acts of service. She wants somebody to give her words of affirmation, if that's her love language. She just doesn't want you to give her the words of affirmation. And so if a different guy, a new guy, shows up on the scene and she's all into acts of service and he's helping her with dishes or filling her car up with gas or rubbing her feet, then that's going to drive her to want to reciprocate and to want to be close and to want to talk and to want to have conversations and to want to make love and to want to do all of these things that we all want them to do. So I hope that makes sense. So now how does this tie into the question of he didn't know she was even having an affair until he starts working with me? Well, this whole idea, and this is where so much of the marriage counseling and the therapy is built upon and where it goes wrong, is like, how many times have I heard from guys, and I'm telling you thousands, brother, thousands of times I've heard from guys where their wife, they go into this counseling session, and one of the first things the counselor or the therapist says is he asks or she asks of both parties, what percent of you wants to stay in this marriage? What percent of you wants to fix this marriage? And of course, the guys I'm working with, it's like 100%. 100% I want to fix this marriage. Absolutely. What does her wife say? 0. 5%. 10%. Negative 10%. Here's the thing, man. What good do better communication skills get you? How does that help you if she doesn't want to communicate with you? And man, if she doesn't want to communicate with you, there's only 2 reasons. You've either not made it safe for her to communicate with you, or you've not made it productive for her to communicate with you. And so if you haven't made it safe and you haven't made it productive, she is not going to communicate with you. And all of the active listening skills and all of the, I think I heard you say that you would like it if I would provide acts of service. Did I get that right? All of that stuff is garbage because number 1, she doesn't want to communicate with you. And number 2, even if she does communicate with you, she doesn't want you rubbing her feet. She doesn't want you rubbing her back. She doesn't want you taking her to bed. And so what ends up happening is they get into my program and they start working with me. And you know what? It's like a new guy has shown up. It's like a new guy has shown up, but he's still in the infancy when it's 1 or 2 or 3 days into the program. She notices that he's a new guy, and primarily what she notices is that he is stronger and he is safer and he is kinder. And if you look at this idea of what does every woman want, like the bottom 80% of what every woman wants, so much of it is driven by he makes me feel safe. He makes me feel like he is strong and I can lean into his strength. He makes me feel like he is kind and he will take care of my feelings. And so usually what happens is like, believe me, man, she's a good woman. And if she's having any kind of an emotional affair, any kind of a physical affair, she is overridden with guilt. And she's doing it behind your back, and keeping it behind your back is something that she is eating her alive. So when you show up in these beginning stages as this new man, sadly, sometimes what happens is now she always and what's sad is, and what sometimes is that you find out she's having an affair. Always what happens is she is now motivated to take a step closer to you. She believes that you can handle what she's going to tell you. She believes that she's going to be safe in the space of telling you. She believes that you're going to be kind in your response to what she's telling you because you have that strength in that inner character. Now, in a small percentage of men, it turns out she's having an affair. And then you've got to work through that. In the vast majority of men, what happens is it turns out that she's not having an affair, but she was on the path of divorcing you further down the road than you thought. Maybe 6 months further down the road. It tends to be about 6 months ahead. And so by stepping into this new identity, by showing up as this new man, what ends up happening is now she feels safe to lean into your strength and your kindness and to be able to have the conversations that need to be had so that she can get her needs met inside the marriage and inside your bedroom, not outside of those things. And so as you continue to work through the program, what happens is every day you're becoming the 2.0 version of yourself, a stronger, kinder man, a more loving man, a more Christ-like man. And see, now all of a sudden things like love language matters. Things like what all these books, these self-help books that you might read, like Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus and Dr. Phil's books and all these things that you read, now all of a sudden those things can help. Why? Because she wants to communicate with you, because it is safe and productive to communicate with you. Because as I've said before, it's these experiences that you give her. Every interaction is an experience. Think about that, brother. Think about every time you show up for her. It's an experience. And when you were dating her, you were paying attention to how she was perceiving those experiences. And then you get lazy in your marriage and you're not. She shuts down. She doesn't want to talk to you. She doesn't want to have sex with you. She doesn't want to have anything to do with you except try to figure out how are we going to disassemble this marriage and divorce. And so what you've got to do, man, is you've got to change the experiences you're giving her. You got to show up as a different man. Now, when you continue to ascend this new and different man, this 2.0 version of you, what ends up happening is now she starts having some different thoughts. Now, not only does she want to communicate with you, she wants to cuddle with you. Not only does she want to cuddle with you, she wants to kiss you. Not only does she want to kiss you, she wants to be behind closed doors with you with the door locked and naked. And not only does she want to do that, all of a sudden, all these interesting things become exciting again. It's not just get it over with and with as little muss and fuss as possible. It's like, let's take our time with this experience. Like, the experiences that you have given me outside the bedroom have been so wonderful that they have warmed up my heart and warmed up my body and now enabled me to actually want and desire and be enthusiastic about giving you and partaking in a wonderful, long-lasting, experimental, let's have fun with this and see where it goes kind of experience behind closed doors. And so this is why, man, when you go to marriage counseling and she's not in the marriage and she doesn't want to be in the marriage and they're trying to teach you communication skills, it is going to fail. This is why the 5 love languages is going to fail. This is why all those other books are going to fail unless you show up as a different man. You have got to show up as a different man. And how are you going to do that? You are going to seek experiences that change your heart, seek experiences that change your mind, seek experiences that change your beliefs, seek experiences that transform you from the inside out so that you can generate experiences on demand that your wife will love. And then everything falls into place. So I hope this has been helpful for you. And if you want to figure out how to do this with rockets and afterburners and not 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but every step forward, then I want you to start at www.realmanrevolution.com, www.realmanrevolution.com, where we've helped over 2,200 men to solve this problem, and we can help you too. And I apologize for the vibrating of my cell phone on this table, and tomorrow I will not have it on there. You have my word. This has been another chapter from the Book of Bob, and I'll see you on the other side.